Good morning, everyone. Thank you for joining this presentation. Today, I'll be discussing the topic, State Stakeholders and Corporate Stakeholders, Navigating the Interplay of Equity Ownership and Innovation. My name is Dr. Ricardo Diaz, and this research was conducted in collaboration with Dr. Rodrigo Donini and Dr. Renato Kogeyama, my fellows from the doctoral program of EBAPE. Giving a little bit of context, our object of study is a specific kind of enterprise, the state-owned enterprises. It is well known that innovation is a driving force for economic growth and competitiveness, which make R&D investments essential for companies, especially large organizations like SOEs. SOEs have a unique role, balancing commercial goals with socio-economic goals, especially in strategic sectors like energy and telecommunications. However, governments face a balancing act, promoting innovation within SOEs while managing public interest and financial constraints, which can sometimes limit R&D investments. This investigation explores the impact of several forms of state equity ownership on innovation and R&D in state-owned enterprises, or SOEs. Ultimately, this study aims to guide policy and investment decisions by understanding how state ownership types influence SOE innovation. The goals are twofold. First, to reveal how different types of state ownership affect R&D spending in SOEs. Second, to identify which ownership structures either foster or restrict innovation. So, the central research question is, how does the heterogeneity of state ownership impact innovation and R&D expenses in SOEs? And what makes this study interesting is because it sheds light on how specific government ownership types shape innovation in SOEs. And by understanding these dynamics, policymakers can foster economic growth through optimized state participation, and corporate leaders in hybrid firms can better balance innovation with stability. Hypothesis 1. Government direct ownership is negatively associated with R&D. The expectation is that direct government control may restrict R&D due to prioritizing stability over innovation. Hypothesis 2. Government pension fund ownership is positively associated with R&D, acting as patient capital that supports long-term innovation investment. Hypothesis 3. Government investment fund ownership is positively associated with R&D, based on a commercial drive to increase firm value through innovation. Hypothesis 4. Total or aggregated state ownership is positively associated with R&D, suggesting that a blend of ownership types would collectively support innovation within SOEs. A gap in the current literature is the lack of focus on distinct impacts of many state ownership types on R&D, which this study addresses. We conducted a quantitative study using dynamic panel models with data from 3,911 public firms across 52 countries, covering multiple industries from 2011 to 2020. Our methodology utilizes the generalized method of moments, GMM, to account for endogeneity. Key variables include dependent R&D expenditures, independent types of state ownership, direct pension fund and investment fund, control variables, revenue, total assets, and cash holdings. We present the descriptive statistics and correlations among key variables. This information helps illustrate the relationships between R&D expenditures, total assets, revenue, and various types of state ownership. Hypothesis 1 suggested that government direct ownership would negatively impact R&D. The rationale was that direct state control might impose restrictions due to public obligations, potentially prioritizing stability and non-commercial goals over innovation. However, our results indicate mixed effects. In some models, direct ownership even shows a slight positive association with R&D. This finding suggests that direct government ownership, rather than simply restricting innovation, can provide resources and stability to sustain R&D under specific conditions. Direct ownership may allow SOEs to invest in R&D without immediate pressures for profitability, fostering environments where R&D can flourish within broader strategic goals. This challenges the conventional view of direct government control as essentially restrictive to innovation. Hypothesis 2 posited that government pension fund ownership would positively impact R&D, acting as a form of patient capital that supports long-term investment. Results strongly support this hypothesis, with a consistent positive association observed across all models. Pension funds, typically focused on stable, long-term growth, appear to create an environment where SOEs can prioritize sustained innovation without pressures for short-term returns. This finding underscores the unique role pension funds play in aligning economic goals with corporate innovation. As stakeholders, they likely favor policies that reinforce a steady R&D commitment, making them particularly valuable investors for SOEs that seek to drive competitive advantage through innovation. This insight could guide policymakers toward leveraging pension funds to back strategic, innovation-focused sectors. Hypothesis 3 expected a positive relationship between government investment fund ownership and R&D, theorizing that these funds might seek innovation-driven growth. However, our results show no significant association. This suggests that investment funds, while focused on growth, may prioritize financial performance and rapid returns over the long-term horizons required for effective R&D investments. Investment funds, typically characterized by a commercially driven mandate, may support operational efficiencies rather than the costly, uncertain outcomes of R&D projects. These findings imply that investment fund ownership may be better suited for sectors prioritizing immediate profitability rather than R&D-heavy industries, where sustained, high-risk innovation is essential. Hypothesis 4 proposed that total or aggregated state ownership would positively impact R&D. Results confirm this hypothesis, showing a strong positive association across models. Aggregated state ownership likely benefits from a diversified influence, where the strengths of different state ownership types, such as the stability of direct ownership and the patient capital of pension funds, work together to create a balanced, innovation-friendly environment. This positive correlation suggests that when state ownership includes various forms, it can collectively support R&D by balancing financial stability with strategic long-term goals. This finding highlights the importance of ownership diversity in achieving sustainable innovation, as aggregated state ownership appears to mitigate the limitations of any single ownership type. Our results reveal that state ownership is not monolithic in its effects on R&D. Different types of state ownership influence innovation in nuanced ways. Pension fund ownership stands out as a catalyst for R&D, confirming the role of patient capital in enabling SOEs to sustain long-term innovation without the immediate pressure for returns. This aligns well with long-term national economic goals and suggests that pension funds can play a strategic role in supporting sectors critical for economic advancement. Investment fund ownership, by contrast, does not show a direct impact on R&D, likely due to a focus on short-term financial returns. This finding indicates that such funds may not be ideal stakeholders for innovation-heavy sectors, where stable, long-term investments are necessary. Finally, aggregated state ownership supports R&D most consistently, leveraging the complementary strengths of various ownership types. The diversity within aggregated ownership allows for a balanced approach, supporting both innovation and economic stability. This suggests that a strategic mix of ownership forms can enable SOEs to operate both competitively and innovatively, aligning corporate growth with national objectives. For policymakers, these findings underscore the importance of strategically selecting state ownership types based on the goals of the sector. 1. Leverage pension funds for innovation. Expanding the role of pension funds in innovation. Critical sectors could provide the stability needed for substantial R&D investments. As patient capital, pension funds align well with long-term innovation goals, helping drive economic growth through sustained R&D. 2. Reevaluate investment fund roles. Investment funds may be more suitable for sectors that require quick returns and operational efficiencies, as their focus is less aligned with high-risk, long-term R&D investments. For corporate managers, our findings suggest that understanding the composition of state ownership can inform strategic decisions. 1. Tailor R&D based on ownership. Composition. SOEs with significant investment fund ownership might focus on cost-effective, efficiency-driven innovations rather than high-risk, transformative R&D. Recognizing these constraints can help leaders allocate resources more effectively. 2. Balancing innovation with stability. Aggregated ownership provides an ideal balance, supporting R&D while aligning with financial and public objectives. Leaders can leverage this ownership mix to pursue sustainable innovation, aligning growth with national priorities. To conclude, this study underscores the varied roles of state ownership in influencing SOE innovation. Key findings: pension fund ownership supports sustained R&D, investment funds show limited impact on R&D, and aggregated state ownership fosters a balanced environment for innovation. Future research. Examining other innovation metrics and exploring sector-specific effects would deepen our understanding of how state ownership influences R&D and corporate innovation. Thank you for your attention, and I welcome any questions on these findings.